appearing a deep coppery red for a few minutes, and this will transform the skies over North America, Asia, and Australia into a deep red color. Now, there are several interesting things about this particular blood moon. While some eclipses can last an hour or more, this will be the shortest lunar eclipse of this century. It's also taking place the morning of Easter Vigil, which is traditionally observed as the period between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. The eclipse also falls within the first night of Passover, which is observed by Jews worldwide beginning Friday at sunset. Now, according to NASA, the rare tetrad of 4 alignments in close proximity has only happened a handful of times in the last 2,000 years. The final blood moon eclipse of the tetrad series will take place September 28, 2015, which also happens to be a Jewish holiday. Many people believe that these lunar eclipses and their appearance on auspicious dates signals a world-changing event that's about to take place.
The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. Joel 2:31.
Now, there's something else about this tetrad series that's pretty bizarre. It happens to fall in a Shemitah year. This is something that hasn't happened for 2,000 years. Rabbi Jonathan Cahn points out in his book, The Mystery of the Shemitah, that these years in the past have brought down economies, kingdoms, and nations that haven't followed God's will.
A very major thing happened that escaped most people. The Shemitah began in the autumn of 2014, and what happened is within 1 week of it beginning, and remember the Shemitah can mean the fall, within 1 week, America was overtaken. Russia became the greatest nuclear power on earth. It actually surpassed it the first week of the Shemitah. The second week of the Shemitah came something even more major, and that is that the American age that began in the year 1871, when we became the strongest economic power on earth, came to an end. America was dethroned as the Shemitah began. It is now China has taken the crown of America. Now, I've warned since the Harbinger came out, I've warned that if we don't turn back to God, there is going to be the crown that America has worn as the head of nations is going to be removed. We are seeing the beginning of that right now. And so we are watching, actually, when the same week that the Shemitah began, Wall Street went crazy for about a month. Now, the pattern of the last Shemitahs have been that often at the beginning of the Shemitah, you don't notice anything, but there are often foreshadows. Well, the major thing, if something's going to happen, the major period is going to be coming up is always at the end of the Shemitah as we approach September. That's the time of that wipeout. I'm not saying it has to happen, but I believe we need to be aware of it. And interesting, people who look at signs, one of the signs in the Bible of judgment is the darkening of the sun or an eclipse. Not that it always is, but it can be. On the day that we get to the wipeout day, Elul 29 of this Shemitah cycle, the sun's going to be darkened at that time. The last time that happened was 1987, when the sun was darkened at Elul 29. It led into Black Monday, the worst day crash in world history. I believe we are going to watch, if we don't turn back, if this nation keeps on going on its course, we're going to watch the fall of America or the shaking of America. And the American age that you and I and all our listeners have known since we were born is going to come to an end.
You can witness this rare event for yourself. The action starts at 5:16 a.m. Central Standard Time on the morning of April 4th. The Earth's shadow will slowly move across the moon, covering it entirely just before 7 a.m.
Did you know that drinking pure, high alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining high energy and vibrant health? Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops, available only at alkavision.com, combine a unique formula of only the most alkaline minerals. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops alkalize your water, ridding the body of harmful toxins, and helps you regain health and energy. Alkalizing your water by simply adding 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps helps the body rid itself of acidic waste, increases oxygen content, and raises the pH of your body to healthy levels. And bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Is one of the only living people who has connections into the Bilderberg Group. I get some intel from people on the periphery, but I do not have a source directly inside Bilderberg. Daniel Estulin has written several international bestsellers on the Bilderberg Group. He's also written a thinly veiled fiction that, of course, really isn't fiction at a lot of levels. Just like Ian Fleming's James Bond novels were true stories put into a composite. And he now has released a documentary we're going to be telling you about today. So he's got the big scoop on where it may be held this year. Is it accurate, as some are saying, that it's going to be in Austria? And a lot more. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Alex, it's always a great, enormous pleasure for me to be on the show. You and I go way back. In 2006, we had... together, standing right in front of the Bilderberg Hotel in Canada, Ottawa, when you were arrested, if you remember. Of course you remember.
Yes.
Just before you came to Canada. And so we've been doing this for a long, long time. And, of course, Jim Tucker was with us. He's no longer with us. But there's a lot of people out there who are doing what they can to make sure that this story doesn't die. And, again, this global awareness, which you were talking about before, on the world stage, people are becoming aware more and more what's going on as a result of technological revolution, internet and everything else out there. It's getting more and more difficult for the global elite to hide their deeds.
Looking at what's happening, why do you think they're coming show out in the open? And then you've got the floor, because I could ask questions, but I want to know what's on your mind, the latest intel you've gotten.
Well, the Bilderberg meeting is being held actually in 2015 in Austria on my Twitter account at Estulin Daniel. I published a couple of months ago an information, a report that I got from my intel sources in the Ministry of the Interior of Austria, who sent me the report saying which dates that everybody in Austria has to be on the lookout. There is no holidays that week. I believe it's from the 9th of, I can't remember exactly the date right now, but it's the beginning of June, and it is being held in Austria, and we have the documents to demonstrate it. As far as what's going on in the world, the globalist elite, the reason actually all this information is coming out right now, Alex, is that the global elite are faced with the reality of seeking to dominate populations that are increasingly becoming self-aware and are developing a global consciousness. Thus, a population being subjected to domination in Africa, for example, has the ability to become aware of a population being subjected to the same forms of domination in the Middle East, in South America, or in Asia, or even in Europe, in Greece, for example. And they can recognize that they're all being dominated by the same global power structures. And that is the key point. Not only is the awakening global in its reach, but also in its nature. It creates within the individual an awareness of the global condition. So it is a global awakening, both in the external environment and also in the internal psychology. And this is something that the elitists, such as the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, Council for Relations, Pinay Circle, Bohemian Grove, all this, ONGs, Rockefeller Foundations, Carnegie's, Hudson's and Hoover's, they simply, can't deal with it right now because it's a new game. And this new reality in the world comes with the fact, Alex, that the world's population has never been so vast. presents a challenge to elites seeking to dominate people all over the world who are aware and awaken to the realities of social inequality, to war, poverty, exploitation, disrespect, imperialism, and domination. And of course, this directly implies that these populations will be significantly more challenging to control, both economically, politically, socially, psychologically, and also spiritually.
By the way, we're rolling some background footage of your new film, and I tell you, it looks like better than something you'd see on HBO. The camera work, the research, I cannot wait to see this. Tell us about your new documentary, Daniel, and how soon we can get a copy of it. I'd love to sell it on DVD or Blu-ray once it comes out at my store, but I hope it goes in theaters first. Tell people the name. Tell us all about this incredible documentary on the Bilderberg Group that you produced.
Well, we're in a post-production now. The film comes out at the end of May, beginning of June. We've been at it for about 4 years. It's our production. We've done interviews in 11 countries, Canada, the United States, most of Europe. We've traveled up and down all over the place. The first producer of the documentary was actually wiped out economically, if you believe in conspiracy or coincidence theories, when 3 banks called in loans on the same day and basically bankrupted him. So he actually.
And by the way, I separately know about this, not from you, but I know who the group was. Are we allowed to say who they were, or we shouldn't talk about it?
You can if you want, exactly.
Was that the guys with the Halcyon group?
No. The Halcyon Group. That's the Major Motion Picture.
Yeah, that's the folks that made Terminator. That they also came after them and took them over to stop your film getting made, right?
Yeah, no, these are not the people who are producing the documentary. These are the people in Spain, independent producers, people who.
So this has happened twice, then, if I'm correct.
This happened twice. Once with the Major Motion Picture, and now with the documentary, which is why it took us a bit longer. But it's almost with the post-production stages. I tell you a little anecdote. I sent a letter, an email to Martin Wolf, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist with the Financial Times, and I asked him for an interview, and I got a reply. And of course, we're going to put it in the documentary. He said in the email, "How dare you make a documentary about the Bilderberg Group?" So the documentary is coming out at the beginning of June, end of May. We're in the post-production, and we're very, very close to the finish line. We're going to be over that finish line, and the film is going to be out worldwide release. There's a lot of international large film festivals who are very interested, and also Bilderberg has become a household name. The book came out 10 years ago, and now everybody knows about it, and I think this is the time. It's the right time, socially speaking, with all the changes taking place in the world, that people think finally are ready to embrace this concept that you've been talking about for about over a decade, and, I've been talking about it for over a decade.
Well, you've got Nigel Farage in here. You've got just an amazing list of top people in your film. I cannot wait to see this. What's the name of the film?
It's called The True Story of the Bilderberg Group. It's based, obviously, on my book. It's actually the first documentary which is based on a book. Most documentaries, are not based on books. But this one is based on my book, The True Story of the Bilderberg Group. Again, it's going to be out in theaters end of May, beginning of June. And when it's out, needless to say, I'd be more than happy and pleased to go back on your show and talk about it.
In closing, I know you've got sources. I know a lot of it now is pretty much, as you said last time you were on, is put out at Davos. But what's on the agenda for 2015 in Switzerland or in Austria?
One of the key issues, Alex, is fiscal austerity. This boogeyman term is back. It's kind of a vague term that is, actually refers to cutting social spending and increasing taxes. And the effect this has is that the public sector is devastated as all assets are privatized, public workers, are fired en masse, unemployment becomes rampant, health and education disappear, taxes rise dramatically, and currencies are devalued to make all assets cheaper for international corporations and banks to buy up, while internally causing inflation, dramatically increasing the costs of fuel and food. And in short, fiscal austerity implies social destruction, as we're seeing right now in Greece, as we saw in Spain, as we saw in Portugal, and as we're seeing, in Italy. And, the social destruction of the social foundations of nations and peoples are pulled out from under them. States then become despotic and oppress the people who naturally revolt against austerity. And this is called the sterilization of society. And this is the term, again, this is the term, Alex, you're going to be seeing a lot more, with the build-up to Bilderberg and then post-Bilderberg. We talked about this before, terms like deindustrialization, zero growth, demand destruction. They were discussed at these private secret meetings, and then suddenly they were front and center in major newspapers. Next big front and center newspaper piece is sterilization of society. It sounds awful, just the word sterilization itself with all the connotations. When you start sterilizing society, it takes on a meaning of its own. It takes it, to an nth degree, of evil that, needless to say, we have to make sure we fight this.
On the other side of this break, we're going to be talking to Dr. Andrew Wakefield, who's recently been exonerated for his research